Today on the podcast, we are talking sensitivity aspects. If you don't know what that is, then guess what? Stay tuned. We're going to talk about it. Real live. Frame My Nate podcast starts right about now.
Get your mind right. Get your mind right.
It's a frame of mind.
Yep. It is the Frame of Mind Nate podcast. This is your boy Simbawi Nibai Jr., aka TK. Along with my man Omar Williams, we call him O, and Denise Obi, we call her D Nice. Y'all say what's up to the peeps.
Hello.
What's up, good people? It is another lovely Wednesday morning, and y'all know how we do. We get it started and popping early. But before we do that, it is Affirmation Wednesday, and we get our affirmations in and out of the way. So, if you got your affirmations written down, you got them memorized, or whatever you got, let's get these in and out the way and get our day started. Are you ready? Let's do it. Today will be a good day. Today will be a great day. Today will be an awesome day. Today will be an amazing day. Today will be a phenomenal day. Today will be stress-free. Today will be a stressless day. Today, I will overcome all barriers that want to block my progress. Today, all circumstances, issues, and situations will work in my favor. Today, all things will line up for my good. Today, I'll become better than who I was yesterday. I am a go-getter. I am victorious. I am triumphant. I am an overcomer. I never lose. I either win or I learn. I take authority over this day. I will dominate this day. I will conquer this day. And everything I have spoken into this day will happen as I have affirmed, because I am more than a conqueror. Let's get it popping. So today we are talking about sensitivity aspects. Fix my camera here because I got too much light going on here. Boom, there we go. Sensitivity aspects. You might say, well, what is that? What are we talking about today? Well, we're talking about sensitivity in the workplace, sensitivity in the schools, sensitivity in our communities, sensitivity in other areas of our lives, even including possibly even families. But the reason why we're talking about this today is because I've realized that over the past 2 years, particularly post-COVID, that there's been a lot more trainings, a lot more talks, a lot more conversations around sensitivity. You know, being sensitive to other people, sensitive to their needs or their wants, mostly their needs, but wants kind of go in there too. Sensitive to, you know, their quote unquote lifestyle, sensitive to, their culture, sensitive to how they process things and things of that nature. And so we're going to talk about this today because I think that it's a good thing and a not so good thing. And you may ask, well, what do you mean by a good thing, not so good thing? I'm going to take this to sports for a minute. You can agree or you can disagree. That's okay. This is just me kind of bringing this into a more multicultural thing where it's everyone's kind of involved. Not that it's not here, but when we bring things to sports, things kind of make a little more sense, right? So let's look at the NBA for instance. The NBA now, I was watching the playoffs the past 2 weeks, or the past week, should I say? Well, I'll say the play-in and the beginning of the playoffs. And now that the playoffs are actually here now, we're seeing a little more aggressive play now in the playoffs. And the aggressive play we're seeing in the playoffs is normally what we saw 10, 20, 30 years ago in regular season play, right? The elbows, the pushing, the hard fouls that were considered regular fouls. Okay. And now we've gotten to this new era of basketball, and everybody's just kind of sensitive. And I say that like this is that, if someone slaps you on the hand, you want to foul. If somebody blows on you the wrong way, you want to foul. If someone decides that, they want to give you a little harder push than usual, you want to foul. And it just seems as though we've gotten to this sensitivity area in sports where it's not really sports anymore. It's just kind of like, we've turned the fun aspect of watching two teams go at it into a foul fest. It's kind of like everything's a foul now. And now it's to the point now where a flagrant 1 or a flagrant 2 is looked at and you're like, that's a flagrant foul? That look like a regular foul to me. Because look, when I was younger coming up playing ball, what was the saying on the street? If you ain't bleeding,
You ain't bleeding, right?
ain't no foul. That's what it was. Now the NBA, of course, it's a little different story, but let's be honest. There were fouls that happened back in the day that just you would be like, wow, like in today's basketball, you get suspended for like 3 games, fouling like that. It just got a little more sensitive. Now,
Soft.
yeah, soft. Let's just say, call it like it is, soft. I have actually, if I were playing in the NBA, I would be excited I was on my way out rather than on my way in. Because I grew up playing basketball in the 90s, in the early 2000s, where the game was still that rough and tough game. Now, I say all that to say this. Yes, I likened it to the NBA. We can also liken it to the NFL as well. But I say that because in sports, it's a little different than what it is in real life. And we're going to talk about that today because right now I'm going to let Owen and Denise jump in here because I want to start with this from the workplace. I'm talking about sensitivity. And before we get into that, I want to actually kind of set some foundation here. So what does the sensitivity aspect mean? I'm coming from this from a more sensitive training aspect. And so the sensitivity training focuses on making employees aware of their attitude and behavior towards others. This includes people who are different in race, color, gender, religion, age, ability, sexual orientation, ethnicity, and other categories protected under the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. Okay? Give you some groundwork. So what does the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act say? Well, this came from also the Civil Rights Act of 1964. They kind of just made some slight modifications to the sensitivity training part of it. And Title VII of the Civil Rights Act says this: to enforce the constitutional right to vote, to confer jurisdiction, excuse me.
There you go.
My tongue's getting a little tired there saying that word. Jurisdiction upon the District Court of the United States to provide injunctive relief against discriminative in the public accommodations, to authorize the Attorney General to institute suits to protect constitutional rights in public facilities and public education, to extend the Commission on Civil Rights, to prevent discrimination in federally assisted programs, to establish a commission on equal employment opportunity, and for other purposes. This is to be enacted by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States of America, and Congress assembled, that this act may be cited as the, quote, Civil Rights Act of 1964. What is that saying? What's the summary of that? Basically, it's saying that the Title VII prohibits employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. Plain and simple. All right. So now let's take this into what sensitivity training is now, because now we're looking at things to where hate crimes, let's just say, are very heavily frowned upon. Would you guys agree?
Right.
Yes.
So in today's world, there are certain words you cannot say because it categorizes you as being unsensitive or insensitive to a group of people. Okay. So in the workplace, we're seeing where, a lot of things are being allowed or disallowed because of now we have to be sensitive to how people are feeling, how they address things, even their culture, where they live, how they process things. So I'm gonna throw this question out to you two. How have you guys seen this in the workplace, and has it affected you positively or negatively? And do you think that the totality of sensitivity training in the workplace is highly necessary for us to thrive in life? So the first question is, how have you seen this act out in the workplace for you? Whether it's you have your own business, you work for someone, you're contracted, whatever. I'll let O go first, and then I'll let Denise go.
Well, I'll answer the first question. I've been working for a small company for a long time, kind of like a family business, like mom and pop. So like, it still has that flair of old school.
Okay.
Like you may hear conversations that aren't quite sensitive, or points of views that are not quite sensitive. So at my actual job, we need some sensitivity training. but like when I'm out and like, so like I go to a lot of nursing homes and I check equipment. I see it there. You may see a situation where, it just got like maybe the bathroom, right? Where the bathroom was a male or female bathroom before, it's now everybody can go there through, or a or
gender
just
neutral.
Yeah, thank you. Help me out, brother, because I guess I just told you I need some sensitivity training.
It is a gender neutral bathroom. Yes.
Yeah. So now when I'm out, I may be in a hospital more, and that's a very public place. Like you'll see it, and you'll see how things have changed, and it's again, it's almost like I see the good, and I also see the we can kind of be going too far left, and I'll leave it at that because, like I said, I don't want to put my I don't want to say nothing crazy, so I'll let Denise go.
I got you, brother. Denise, so
sensitivity.
Yes, we're being sensitive to others and how they process things when it comes to the Family Money Podcast. Y'all know how we do, but we're not going to go out there and give you an R-rated, show. Denise, how have you seen it in the workplace? For yourself.
So with me, I work from home a lot now, but since I started this new job, I think for me it's more of like the he, they, them, she, the pronouns, and that kind of throws me off a lot because sometimes I'll be talking to a female and they want to be like, oh, please address me as they, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. So the pronouns thing is definitely a big thing, and I didn't realize that until I started working for a bigger, well-known firm, and they're like, no, we have to be sensitive to people's genders, to what they would like to be addressed as, because I'm just thinking he or she, and clearly, apparently, it's no, he, she, they, them, or just address them by their name as a person.
Got you.
Yeah.
And I personally, this is me. I was taught, but I also am a firm believer that, hey, whatever your name is, that's what I plan to call you. If your name is Denise, I'm gonna call you Denise. If your name is Omar, I'm gonna call you Omar. Now you may say, hey, you can call me O. All right, okay, fine. I still may call you Omar, because me personally, I'm big on names. Like, names have a meaning, they mean something, and that's what your birth certificate says. It says Omar. It doesn't say O, it says Omar. so I'm gonna call you Omar. But that's just me. And I haven't come across anyone saying, "Hey, refer to me as such and such." I do not deal with, but I am amongst that in the field that I work in when it comes to mentoring and coaching and stuff like that. Whether I'm in a school or I'm with someone one-on-one with a Zoom or face-to-face, but I haven't come across it myself. But I am in an environment where this does exist as well. So the next question was about how you deal with it in the workplace. And I guess I'll just go right to the third question I asked. Is this a good thing or a not so good thing? And if so, why do you think that is? Omar, I'll let you go first.
Okay. So overall, I believe any level of sensitivity to another culture, to another gender, to another whatever, I think it's necessary. So like I think overall, a lot of it's a good intentions, right? But a lot of times, they say the path to hell was paved with good intentions. You ever hear that statement before? Like, I think what happens sometimes is we go
First time.
getting out. What'd you say?
She said first time for her. She said
That was my first time hearing that.
Oh, your first time hearing that? Yeah, like it's a lot of things that we think, and what it means is a lot of things we think are good. They are on the surface, but they're leading us in a bad way. But let me say this: I think it overall is good, and I'm going to leave it at this. But I think it has the potential to kind of go a little bit too left or a little bit too right. That's my opinion.
All right, Denise.
I agree with Omar. Like, it can go left or right, and it can be very sensitive. And I think sometimes we have to have that sensitivity training, and I think that's what a lot of companies are doing now, or a lot of even schools are doing now, is that training, like not just for gender neutral, but for ethnicities, races, whatever the case may be. It's, hey, when you meet, say, someone of this descent or this culture, this is how we address them, versus this could be your friend you're talking to, and it's different than someone else. It's a different kind of way or tone you speak to them. So,
gotcha.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both of you. I think it's a good thing because sensitivity is something that we should, be aware of on whatever level it is. And we're talking workplace right now. Then also too, it could go too far left to right, because I think, like you said, things on the surface look good, but then when you start kind of getting into the nitty gritty of it, envelopes start getting pushed, and then next the envelope's broken, and now it's kind of like, whoa, wait a minute, hold up, like this is going another direction. But again, I don't believe that it should leave the door open for quote discrimination, because I think we've had enough of that.
Agreed.
Over a millennium of years, long before we were even conceived and thought of and born. That's been happening. And the thing is, and the sad thing is, it will continue to happen. It's just that now what we have with the sensitivity training in the workplace, it kind of helps to minimize it, because now it's a part of your job description. Like, you have to kind of make sure that this is something that if this is something you do on your personal time, okay, while you're at work, it's a no-no. It's just that simple. And that's something that can and will get you fired, no matter what, no matter who you are. And people will say, well, if you're hired up high enough in the ranks, you can't. No, there have been people who have been high up in the ranks who have gotten fired, let go, and because of the fact that they have chosen. Now, they might get away with it longer, but eventually things will catch up to you, and things will happen. So let's switch gears for a little bit. Let's go to the schools now. So I know, I work with a lot of youth. Omar has worked with some youth as well, and Denise, you work with youth. We all work with youth in some capacity, whether it's children, teenagers, young adults, whatever. And so, in our schools, what do we see in our schools when it comes to this? And I think our schools are highly important, because we are seeing a lot more of this in schools, because in my own opinion, but I also, from what I have seen, I'll say my strong opinion is that we're seeing a lot of our youth dealing with a lot more emotionalism than anything else. You know, they're dealing with the loss of a parent or a parent who was there who's not there anymore. They're dealing with sibling rivalry. They're dealing with a lot of things in the community that are pulling them left and right. And not to mention what it is they see on TV or what they listen to in music. And that's always been a factor, but I think now it's a lot more prevalent because now you can get everything and anything you want on a mobile device. There's no passwords required. There's no private pages. It's just kind of out there in your face, period. Not to mention that people are actually putting it out there for you, particularly on social media, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and whatever other things are out there that we don't know about, but the youth know about, because the youth that I talk to, they got all kind of groups and pages that they go to and apps. I'm like, what is that? They're like, oh, this is the new so-and-so. And I'm like, okay, what's it do? It's like, oh, it's like a subdivision of TikTok, but it's like a lot grimier than TikTok. You know what I mean? So as far as school goes, Omar, you've got little ones in school. I've got a middle schooler and one that's about to be a middle schooler. And Denise doesn't have any yet, but she deals with the little children as well. And she kind of sees things. So what do you guys see from a school perspective when it comes to sensitivity?
Well, my daughter goes to a school that's like, what'd you say?
I'll let the dads go first on that one.
Okay, yeah. Well, okay, so my daughter is in second grade and my son is in pre-K, but he's going to the same school next year. Her school is really open. Like, and when I say open, it's open. Like it's very diverse. You name it, it's there. Like you name the person, you name the gender, you name the race, they have it there. They teach them about different things. And when she first went there, like I didn't know how I would take it, but I'm actually seeing a positive side to it because she gets, I got to parent through things, right? Like I can't just, my kids are not going to be in a bubble, right? Like once they leave my house, they're exposed to a lot of different things. Like you said, the internet now, it opens them up for everything. So I do like that side of it, but I realize now I got to parent through a lot of different situations that I didn't expect to parent through this early. Right? Because of the school she goes to. Some of the things I hear, I'm like, okay. Like give me the wisdom to deal with it and be sensitive, right? Because at the end of the day, I grew up different.
Right.
I grew up different, a different bubble, so to speak. Like she has a different everything. So what I'm seeing in her school, it's they got from A to Z, and it's everything at one time. And she's only in second grade, so I can only imagine what's coming. So, and the kid, like I said, the kids she's more knowledgeable to things that I didn't even have a clue of at that age. So you know what I mean? So what's happening in her school, they're getting exposed to a lot of things, good, and I won't even say it's in a bad way. Just exposure is happening in her school. So I'm anxious to see how my son, how he responds to some of these different things when he gets there.
Gotcha. Well, look, so I'll let Denise go last. So for me, I see it on a daily basis, and so the one thing, like Omar said, we're kind of parenting through things where we weren't exposed. We weren't as exposed as our children are.
Yeah.
And so now it's like we didn't get exposed to things maybe not till maybe middle school or high school, and then when you go to college, if that's where you go, you kind of start seeing it in totality because now it's just everybody's together, depending on where you grew up at, with your culture and your neighborhood, whatever. And so now with our children, it's like they're getting it so early. You're kind of like, wait a minute, like this is not supposed to happen until this age, possibly. But the era is different. And so now we have to spend time with our children at earlier ages and kind of explain to them, some of the things that they're learning in school, whether it's right or wrong or good or bad. And so we need to explain those things because they're getting it at a much earlier age. And I'm not going to dive too deep into the spiritual on this, but they're getting it at an early age. And I think that that's being done for a reason. At the same time, it's also, as O said, it's a good thing because it kind of exposes them. That's not the correct word I want to use. Or should I say, it allows them to see the world as it is.
Yes.
And not just be in a bubble thinking that, everything is just nice and great and wonderful. And then you get out there and it's like, the world is not like that. So I'm very appreciative to be able to parent through that, but to also understand that, okay, you get a chance to see the world in totality for what it is and to know what the good, right, moral things are to do and the not so good, bad, and maybe not moral things to do, and let's just be honest here. Moral to some and unmoral to others is different. And so I'm just saying, I'm making that plain and clear so that we don't have any discrepancies. It's like, well, what do you mean? Well, what's moral, Sabawi? Well, let me put this out here too. You guys know that myself, Denise, and Omar, we are believers in the Son Yahushua the Messiah. So you kind of have an idea where we stand. So just want to say that. Denise, go ahead.
So with me, my perspective is I am a part of a church where I teach Sunday school to kids from ages 4 to about 12. And for me, I get everything on that Sunday. And when I say get everything, I get the TikToks, the music, I learned this in school, Miss Denise, I learned about a male and female, different genders, learned about different cultures. So for me, it's definitely, I can tell that the kids are being exposed to it. And that when they're talking to me in church on Sundays, that some things are good and some things are bad. And some things I have to really not only just tell them about the scripture, but also explain to them, hey, your friend may be able to do this, but the reason your parents tell you that, you can't do that, or you're not allowed to listen to that is because of what goes on behind whatever the music is or the TikTok video or the trend is lately, that they don't want you following that path because they know that it's not necessarily going down the right path, or it's not necessarily something they want you to be grasping at such a young age. So I do definitely get everything as a whole, as what you guys are saying on Sundays. And then in the week sometimes. Yeah.
Got you. Cool. So we talked about the workplace, talked about schools. Take a short break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about communities, and then we're going to talk about church. Yeah, we're going to go there today. Church. Frame Money Podcast. Be right back. Are you looking for an apparel company that's positive, uplifting, and truly cares about you? Then look no further. Frame of Mind Inc., an apparel brand company, impresses on individuals to think positive thoughts, say positive things, and do positive deeds. Get positive apparel, such as t-shirts, hoodies, and wristbands for children, teens, and adults in various colors and sizes. Customized services include logo and t-shirt design, screen printing, and embroidery for individuals, families, schools, profit, and nonprofit organizations. You can reach Frame of Mind Inc. at 302-689-3499 or visit their website at www.frameofmindinc.com. Frame of Mind Inc. Think it, speak it, achieve it.
It's a frame of mind.
All right, welcome back. Second half of the Frame of Mind Inc. podcast. We are talking sensitivity aspects. We we're talking about sensitivity training, sensitivity in general in the workplace, sensitivity in our schools, and what we encounter in those areas of the workplace. And in school, or whether it's just dealing with youth in general. So now we're going to talk about communities, because a lot of sensitivity trainings now deal with different ethnic groups, different races, different backgrounds, different cultures. And so, to my knowledge, which I believe that most of us, myself, Omar, Denise, grew up in probably a rough neighborhood, one degree or other. And Denise, correct me if I'm wrong, you're from New York, right? From Brooklyn, right?
Yes.
Brooklyn
Queens,
Zoo.
Queens.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Queens.
Queens. Oh, she corrected me. You said it's
Queens.
Queens. Okay.
Queens.
Going back to Queens, man. Yeah, back
Right.
to Queens. All right, got you. All right. That's coming.
Get it right. Get it right. Get it right.
That's coming to America. We're going back to Queens? No,
We're
man.
going to
Right.
Queens.
So me, I'm from Trenton, New Jersey. That's born and raised. Omar grew up in around the Philly area.
Yeah, right outside of Philly. It's called Darby Township.
Darby Township. So close enough. So, and I'll go first, and I'm gonna keep mine short. So, I grew up in Trenton, New Jersey, and I tell people all the time, I've lived somewhere everywhere, but Trenton, New Jersey, that's where I was born, that's where I was raised, and so I've seen things change over time, from when I was a child up to when I went through high school. And the foundation was always the same. You're growing up in a neighborhood in the projects. And so as time goes on, the projects are what they are. Let's just keep it like that. The projects are what they are. For a better like a term, the hood. It is what it is, right? So, but when I got into high school, this was the time when, Bloods and Crips started to come in to the Trenton area. And so we had a different, more, should I say, violent dynamic when that came in. So it kind of increased it. And to this day, it's still to that degree. But I will say this, from a cultural standpoint and background, we grew up in one of the roughest areas in Trenton. And so, my parents, the one thing that my father told me, he said, look, you're going to public school, these are some rough areas. He said, look, the main thing I want you to do, I want you to go to school, get your education, and get out. That's what he told me. My mother, she backed it up 100%. Go to school, get your education, get out. Now, I played basketball in school. I was in, a couple of clubs. I was in the choir, stuff like that. And so my thing was that, look, I'm going to school, get my education, I'm gonna get out, and that's it. And that's the mindset that I had. There were others that might have had that same mindset. Others were there for other reasons, whether they just wanted to be there to hang out, whether they wanted to be there for whatever it was. And so that was my mindset. But I also understood that this is where I live, this is where I grew up at. There are things that I understand from a mindset, because my parents taught me things that they knew from how they grew up. My father, he was born and raised to a degree in Virginia, but he lived the majority of his life in Trenton, New Jersey. So he kind of knew how that lifestyle was. My mother's from North Carolina. She ended up eventually coming to Trenton, New Jersey. And so there was just a lot that we dealt with from the background of living in the hood, but we also were taught things about survival and looking at things from a perspective of always make sure you're aware of what's going on, aware of your surroundings. And so when it comes to sensitivity, there wasn't a whole lot of that when I was going to school. I didn't really get too much involved in sensitivity aspects until I started working with youth myself. And as time moved on, because I knew the background of most of the students that I work with now, I'm able to connect with them and understand where they're coming from, but also understanding too that, okay, I'm dealing with a lot of students and whether they're, elementary, middle school or high school, I'm dealing with, single parent homes, whether it's father only or mother only. I'm dealing with, two parents in the home, but what all is happening in the home. I'm dealing with grandparents who have children whose, parents who are their children don't have custody. And it's a whole lot going on. So there's a lot of different dynamics there, but the foundation is still the same. So I kind of so I'm able to connect, but the sensitivity aspect of it is, hey, you have to understand who you're dealing with. What are they dealing with? How do we handle that? How do we go about speaking to that person? Is it our tone, how we say it, what we say, my posture? Like all that plays a factor when I'm dealing with them. And so I'm gonna stop there. I'm gonna let Denise jump in. That's just kind of my take on it, on what I'm seeing from the community aspect. What are you guys seeing?
So you're saying like the community that we live in now, or community or prior, or both?
It could be either, or it could be both.
Okay, well, I'll just do a real quick synopsis of my upbringing. I grew up from like from 0 to like 9 was the hood. Okay, no other influences outside of everybody look like me, sound like me, talk like me, right? No sensitivity at all. Like if you had big Coke bottle glasses, they talk about it. If you had any kind of ailment or any kind of issue, they talk like no sensitivity at all, right?
Right.
Then I moved to another hood from 8 to 18. But the difference here is I go to this hood and the public school didn't have enough spots left. So I had to get shipped out. I was the only brother leaving the neighborhood. Had a bus coming right to my front, the Swarthmore. So I went to Swarthmore Elementary from 4th grade till you couldn't go anymore. So it was a culture shock. But I was able, again, so back to like diversity and sensitivity, I was able to see. And again, you think about this, it's the 90s, right? Late 80s, early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Times were still different, regardless of whatever culture it was, it still wasn't that sensitive. So like when I started getting shipped out to the school, I might have been 1 or 2 black people in the entire school, maybe 3, right? And everybody else was either, Caucasian or other, and the other might have been Asian, right? So back to sensitivity, they had none because I used to get laughed at because of how I spoke. Right? Like no sensitivity. It was just they didn't understand me. They didn't get it or whatever. So that was so I had that, but it opened up my eyes to different things. It like exposed me to like, things are like it's things beyond what I know. Right? Like there's not liquor stores on corners here, or it's not guys selling drugs on the corner where I'm going to school. Like it's like an actual college here, and like it exposed me to that. So now I live where I live now, and I'm older now, and I have children now, and I think the times are different. Like so, like now when we're at sporting events or we're in this community, I do have to be mindful. Like the little boys are not like the little boys when we were young. They're a little bit more in tune. Like we were, right, wrong, or indifferent. We were taught to be like more tough, bullheaded. Like if you get hurt, don't cry. Like that stuff is not, it's not the greatest. But that's how we were raised. So now when I see it now, I just got to be sensitive to it. Like, you know what? This is just a different time. You know what I mean? I can't say brush it off. I gotta just acknowledge it, right? I gotta acknowledge it. I gotta be more sensitive to it. So like now I'm realizing in the community I'm in now, it's more of that. It's more sensitivity. Like I have to be more sensitive towards a lot of things. And it's good. Like I'm not knocking it. I may sound like I'm coming off like I'm knocking it, but it's actually a good thing. So
we're cut from a different cloth, brother. That's all.
Yeah, man. And I really am cut from a different cloth. Like I said, I grew up where people have everything that's wrong with you, and you got to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? So nowadays, you got to be careful of what you say. You got to use the right terms, use the right words, and just be mindful. So Yeah, that's what I see now.
Gotcha. Denise?
So for me, growing for the first part of my life, spending in New York, I was exposed to every ethnicity, race, things, races I didn't even know existed, basically existed in New York, and so it was always easy for me to adapt to new cultures, adapt to people who didn't look like me, people who looked like me, and everything. And even my mom, she's a British Jamaican woman, and even her and being around my family, and I'm the American, and then everybody else is either back home in Jamaica or back home in England, and I'm like just the grandchild who's American. And I'm like, oh, now I have to learn their culture. So for me, it was really easy to adapt and easy to adjust to like all the different cultures, and sensitivity wasn't as big of a deal as I from what I remember. And so people would say, do stuff, but not necessarily inappropriately, but they would say things or do things and others would just brush it off, or they knew they were joking. So that's how I kind of understood sensitivity, but it wasn't taken so serious back then. And when I moved to Delaware, that's when I really had like almost in a way a culture shock, because when I came here, like I started talking, like I kind of switched up how I was talking. So I would know who to talk to properly and who I could talk to. Like I'm talking to one of my friends because they're like, "What?
Right.
What are you talking about?"
Right.
And I remember one day going back to New York for church with my mom, and I remember like friends and family back home. They're like, "You talk so properly now. You don't talk like you used to." I just switched back to how you generally talk. They're like, "No, don't talk like that." And it's like it's just the sensitivity of the culture, and you just know where to adapt and who you can talk to, more relaxed than others, and the environment I was in. So definitely that having that upbringing and that not necessarily having the sensitivity in the beginning, but having it more so as I got older, it really helped me to know who I'm talking to, knowing my audience at all times. So
Got you. That's good,
Mhm.
man. That's good stuff. It's good stuff. All right, last subtopic here. We're gonna talk about church here just a little bit. So those of you out there who you might be like, I don't know about that. That's fine. But we're gonna talk about it because it needs to be talked about. All right. Now we're gonna talk about it in a sensitive way, but we are gonna talk about it. So let's look. So in the church, what are we seeing in the church from a sensitivity standpoint? And I'll go first. I can let you guys go last. And for me, from what I've seen or experienced, I would just say, let's say the past 10 years, is that I think it just depends, again, on the culture. Depends on the culture, depends on the background, depends on how you were brought up, depends on even your history. And I think from a standpoint of what I've seen, you look at it from there could be the aspect of them, or should I say us and they, where it's kind of like, well, this is us here in the church, and then there's they out there in the world. And I think when it comes to that we need to be more sensitive to the fact that at one point in time, if you want to look at it like that, us and they, we were they at one point in time.
Come on, man.
And so you have to look at it from the fact that, okay, this is not a us they thing. It's a we thing, because everyone goes through something to help someone else that's coming up after you, or someone who's in the same thing as you, and you might come out first. You know what I mean? And so there can't be big I's and little U's. There can't be the us they factor. At the same time, let's talk a little, churchy church real quick. We all know that there's sin that we talk about from the Bible standpoint, and we're like, oh well, and we were talking on Monday in a group that I went to about the fact that, okay, well, what does Christianity look like to you? And it's kind of like, or what do people think it looks like? And it's kind of like, you can't decide that a big sin and a little sin. It's like, well, you did a big sin, so you can't get no grace. You got to do a lot to get grace. You did a little sin, so you're okay. It's all right. No, I'm like, it's all quote unquote sin. But you have to also understand that you can't look at people and their sin and feel like, oh, well, their sin was greater than what I did, so I'm a better person than they are. No, not at all. And so, and I think that's one thing that kind of people look at the church as, is like they think they're better than we are because of
Right.
X, Y, Z. And that's simply not the case. But we're not better. You know, we're all striving to get better each and every day. You know, you just may be in a place that's just a little lower than what I may be in, but I was also in a low place too. And even though I'm in church and I'm a Christian or whatever, I still have my low moments. Like I'm not there, you know? And so I think we just need to be more sensitive to the fact that, you know, if we're going to view things like that, we're not going to be able to help people. We're actually hurting them more than helping them. And I'll stop right there. I'll let you guys go.
All right, yeah.
You know what? No. You know what?
Yeah.
I actually want the niece to go first, and I want you to go last.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. Okay.
Sensitivity in the church. What can I say? I've grown up and I've been through Baptist, Pentecostal, non-denominational, Presbyterian, like probably every other church you can think of. And that's just being exposed to my mom being brought up in the church, our family, like helping out with different churches. And sensitivity in the church was kind of different because it was, you do as I say, and that's it. Like, that's how you follow God, is you do as I say, and that's it. There's no question about it. Like, if you're going out, no going to parties, because that's a sin. No doing this and that, that's a sin. And it was never really taught why you shouldn't be doing it. Besides, that's a sin, and point blank, period. And that's kind of where a lot of people struggled. From my perspective, a lot of people struggled with that because it was just because I said so. And it's like, well, that's just going to make somebody want to do it more or sneak out and do something that you told them not to do, because you're not explaining to them, hey, you shouldn't be doing this because A, B, C, and can happen, not just because I said so. And that kind of, I know in churches I've been to have strayed a lot of people from the church and caused confusion and division in the church because I said so, because of fleshy ways and not what the Bible says. So that has caused a lot of sensitivity issues, and that's why I'm kind of grateful now for where I go to church, because at least there's that mix of different age groups. So then the seasoned generation has the younger generation they give us wisdom, but we also give them wisdom, because sometimes I've had some where they try to tell me something, I'm like, it's 2023, like, you know, we got to change up things sometimes, you know. And then they're like, oh, okay, I see your perspective. But, you know, that just having that neutral age gap has helped. So that's my perspective.
Gotcha.
All
All right, you can wrap this up.
All right, man. So let me say this, man. Y'all both hit it on the head. With it's cultural, right? I was raised Pentecostal, so like you couldn't do anything. Women couldn't wear pants. You couldn't act like you was really enjoying the worship song. Like, you know how they dance, like certain places dance, they get it, right? You worship it, like you really get it.
Yeah.
That was like, nobody, you better clap like this, you know. You better just keep it smooth and keep it clean. Or you're going to hell. Like everything was going to hell. Everything, right? So I think within the last 10 years, though, there's been an exodus out of that.
Oh, I thought you were about to say there's been an exorcism. I was like, wait a minute, hold up.
No. No. No.
Like wrong
that
church.
type of church.
Gotcha.
No, and people are now going to the sensitivity, like churches that are more sensitive and open
Yeah.
to different ways of life, different genders, different people, and they're not turning them away. They're just giving them Jesus and letting them like whatever. Like, I'm giving you Jesus. Now, I do think it's a thin line when it comes to, because what makes the belief system is the beliefs. You can't waver or teeter-totter. Like, so say we believe that the earth is, or just put a belief out there, right? I'm not going to offend nobody or nothing. If our belief is the sky is purple, we gotta go with that belief, or we're no longer what we're saying we believe. Get it?
Mhm,
But that doesn't
mhm.
mean I turn away people who believe. I open my arms to the people who believe the sky is gray, and I give them our sky is purple, and let's see what happens from there. And hopefully we can turn everybody to purple sky.
See, now I see that's called being sensitive right there.
That's called being
sensitive.
sensitive.
There you go. And listen, let's make sure that everyone understands. Number one, we are not knocking the church. Okay, we're not doing that. Number two, we're not saying that what we have done over the past 10 years has been wrong. Let's just say that we've, from a general standpoint, again, based on culture, how you're raised, background, you teach what you've been taught. It's what you do. You can only teach what you've been taught. But then when you start seeing things from a different perspective, or you start actually looking at things for what they really are and how they're interpreted, you can kind of start doing things in a way that's better. Not necessarily that it was wrong, but it's a better way. And so just wanted to kind of throw that out there, because I think that, let's be honest, the church plays a big role in our communities. At least it should. And so being that that's the case, I wanted to put that out there because I believe that from a sensitivity standpoint, that is something that should be talked about as well. Now, I will say this. We're not going to say everything in the right context because we don't want to make the show too long. But if you guys want to hear more about that, let us know. We can kind of make that context a little more concrete if you'd like to. But that's all we have time for today. Any last thoughts before we sign off, guys, between any of you two?
I'm going to just say this.
Nothing for me.
Love people. You love people, it'll help you with sensitivity. Leave it at that.
Sure.
Denise, anything?
That's it for me.
I agree with Omar.
Okay.
Oh, that's it.
Gotcha.
And on that.
Got you. So before we go, I want to
Right.
remind you guys that today's Wednesday. All right, you guys have until Friday or Saturday to get your Action Speak Louder t-shirt, short sleeve, long sleeve, or hoodie. If you guys have the video version, as you can see, I'm wearing my Action Speak Louder hoodie. It's a maroon color with the speak in gold going across the center there. We've got multiple colors, sizes. So if you go to the frameofmindinc.com/store and you go to get your Action Speak Louder apparel, you will, in the cart, type in the word promo code ACTIONS, and you will receive a discount on Actions Speaks Louder. All right. Other than that, we're going to sign off for today. Also, don't forget, in the month of May, we have our Women's Entrepreneurial Series, and we're going to have 3 amazing women we're going to talk to and interview on their entrepreneurial journey. So make sure you join us for the month of May. We're going to have a podcast every single Wednesday morning in May. So you want to check that out. 3 amazing women. And we also have one other topic we're going to talk about. We're not going to tell you what it is now because we want you guys to come. So the first week in May, on Wednesday, we're going to have a topic that's dealing with women's NCAA basketball. That's all we're going to say. You got to show up for that one. And all I'm going to say is you want to show up because we're going to talk some serious stuff about women's NCAA basketball on next week. All right. So for all of us here at the Fan Mind Inc. podcast, continue to think it, speak it, and achieve it. And until next week, Denise, and myself, we holla. Thank you for joining the Frame of Mind Inc. podcast. And as always, here at Frame of Mind Inc., think positive thoughts, say positive things, and do positive deeds. As our tagline says, think it, speak it, achieve it. See you next time.
It's a frame of mind. It's what you say and what you do.
Don't forget to check us out on the web at www.frameofmindinc.com, where you can browse our online apparel store, listen to some of our original music and production services, as well as view our videos and projects we've done for our clients and customers.